Feet, ladies, I want to make a move. I want to perform their favorite song, but you know they love the suit. Yeah, that song. Oh, maybe I think about it. You know what? I slow it down. Say, ladies, do me this solid.
Oh, you done lost your damn mind.
This world were mine.
Hey, Roman number 7, babe. Drop it like.
Hello, my name is Rosalie Chachi, and today at 70 years old, I reflect on my journey that began around 50 years ago in the Radical MPR classroom at Ashesi University during my final Leadership 4 course. Back then, in 2025, I was just 20, and I was driven by faith, a desire to serve, and a deep curiosity about how technology, storytelling, and impact could come together to heal communities and solve problems. My vision has always been to use technology to create meaningful social impact. I didn't know exactly what form it would take, whether healthcare or education or digital access, but I just knew that I was called to be a social premier, which is a social entrepreneur, because I always found joy in helping people, and I believe that innovation, when led with care, could solve problems and improve lives. Leadership to me was never about titles or loud moments. It was, and still is, about quiet service, deep listening, and using the gifts God gave me to uplift others. The lessons I learned from Ubuntu, servant leadership, and leading quietly became the foundation of how I lived and led. Back in 2025, I remember conducting a SWOT analysis at the beginning of the semester because I wanted to know myself more and track my progress during my time taking the leadership course. Mr. Salim Wangabi, an Ashesi counselor, also highlighted the need for me to do that SWOT analysis. So I did. And my initial assessment results were my strengths, which are good communication skills, my natural ability to connect with people from diverse backgrounds, and then my dedication and perseverance. Despite this number of strengths, I also noticed some weaknesses, which were my impatience with slow processes, my tendency to take on too many responsibilities, and then my nervousness doing public speaking, especially when there is like a large audience or a crowd. Back in 2025, I remember conducting a SWOT analysis at the beginning of the semester because I wanted to know myself more and track my progress during my time. Opportunities available back then were multiple leadership roles on campus to practice and refine my skills, and then networking with guest speakers and alumni whenever there are seminars around campus. And also the persistent threat that I realized was burnout from overcommitment, and then some time management issues. Our leadership class didn't just expose these challenges that I had, but it gave me the tools to confront them. Readings like Why Measure Social Impact by Bev Meldrum and Pete Reed helped me to understand that making a lasting impact isn't about being perfect, but it's about learning, adapting, and then staying grounded in service. I started using reflection practices and seeking mentorship for growth. I became intentional about developing myself as a leader by taking on roles that would challenge my weaknesses. That semester, I signed up to be a peer coach and mentored about 20 first-year students to help them to navigate smoothly into Ashesi. This enabled me to listen to them, actively hear them, which embodies the active listening characteristics of a servant leader, which we discussed in class. I was later nominated as a peer captain by Miss Yvonne, the Ashesi Wellness Coach, because of how dedicated I was to helping the students. Earlier that semester too, I volunteered as a buddy for 2 first-year students, a Ghanaian and a Cameroonian, helping them to also navigate life on campus easily. I also served as a president of HFCC, a Christian denomination on campus, organizing weekly meetings and learning to lead with patience and humility, all of which are characteristics of a good leader, which we learned in Leadership 1. When it came to academics, I was mostly the team lead in all of the courses that I took that semester, and I wasn't even actively pursuing leadership roles. In that regard, I was mostly just chosen to lead because of how I took initiative. And those team collaboration taught me valuable lessons about patience and tolerance, directly addressing my weakness of impatience with slow processes. The service leadership project, coupled with learnings from class videos like the Chachimuri's innovation with his torchlight and Michael Pritchard's lifesaver bottle, showed me how simple technologies could solve complex problems. And these examples reinforce my vision of becoming a social entrepreneur using technology for impact. By the end of the semester, I conducted my final SWOT analysis, and it felt vulnerable at the time, perhaps because I had grown so much over those months. Some of the strengths that I realized were enhanced communication skills, empathy, and growing confidence. Improved public speaking skills based on feedback and comments from faculty and peers. Improved deeper understanding and application of 7 leadership principles. And then greater patience with processes and listening abilities inspired by Ubuntu principles, which we studied in class. Some of the weaknesses were my tendency to analyze decisions, sometimes slowing down progress, my occasional reluctance to celebrate small wins, and my need to further develop financial literacy for sustainable social enterprises. The opportunities that were available were the better understanding of how to leverage existing strengths in entrepreneurship through the various faculty and offices available on Ashesi. My recognition of the value of followership in leadership context. And some of the threats were the industry disruption in technology sector and the potential for the mission drift of my vision when scaling social enterprises, the challenge of balancing passion with financial sustainability. So with the SWOT analysis in mind, I developed a concrete plan focused on 5 key leadership competencies. The first is public speaking confidence, effective delegation of tasks, strategic time management, and financial literacy for managing social enterprises. So how did I do that? The following semester, I began my final year at HSE and I developed my capstone project, which was a multilingual AI-powered health education service called for a doctor mainly for undeserved communities in Ghana and maybe later scaling into Africa. This platform connected people from any demographic and economic background to doctors via basic feature phones or smartphones. So how did I do that? The following semester, I began my final year at HSE and I developed my capstone project. I integrated lessons from all 4 leadership certificates or courses into this project. From Leadership 1, I applied the attributes of a good leader by ensuring the project was ethically sound and centered on community needs. From Leadership 2, I incorporated the concept of fundamental human rights by making the healthcare information accessible to all. From Leadership 3, I designed a sustainable economic model that balanced social impacts with financial viability. And from Leadership 4, I implemented servant leadership principles by designing the service around communities they actually needed it, not what I was thought they needed. This is based off from research. So my improvement in public speaking led me to confidently pitch the Fredocta venture to investors, resulting in a grant of $20,000 that became crucial for our initial development and launch, showing that there was an improvement in the public speaking sector. In 2026, I graduated and together with co-founders, I officially launched the Fredocta venture. By 2030, we had reached over 3 million users and received recognition from global institutions. So my improvement in public speaking led me to confidently pitch the Fredocta venture to investors, resulting in a grant of $20,000. To address my weakness in financial literacy, I pursued a master's in global health technology in the US. There, I witnessed the structural challenges to global healthcare systems. I also enrolled in the financial course online and also took a master's in financial accounting. I held on to Ubuntu in those spaces, knowing that I am the cause, and that true impact emerges from the collaboration and humility. In 2030, I was honored by Forbes Africa in their 30 under 30 list for healthcare innovation. That recognition was never the goal, but a true reward came from hearing rural users describing how their lives improved because they finally had access to trusted health information in their own language, which then led to so many preventable diseases. In 2031, confronting my fear of failure head-on, as inspired by I launched a social service app that connects everyday Ghanaians to trusted service providers I saw too many people, especially women, struggling to find decent work or reliable help. I saw too many people, especially women, struggling to find them decent work help them to find each other with dignity. I drew inspiration from access to customers. To find them was a guest speaker, help them to find each other with dignity. Who went from his father's drew inspiration from founding a tech company to Jacob Chan. the story of perseverance, self-learning, service helped me to reimagine who went from his father's mechanic example. I always prioritize my tech companies. I established a tech company. The story of perseverance, I always prioritize my self-learning and service helped me to reimagine. In 2021, confronting my following his example, I always prioritize as inspired by since I established a business after finding hard center. I always prioritize my social service app that connects every Ghanaian trusted service. I never forgot home, so in 2036 I returned to Keta, where I was born and raised, and I partnered with my alma mater to launch a girl child education IT literacy initiative. The school is Keta. It's called Keta as a Community Girls School. We started coding class, provided mentorship, and gave scholarships. This work embodied Ubuntu in action, which simply highlights community-centered interdependence and transformation. In 2042, I established the RDT Health Leadership Institute, focusing on mentoring the next generation of African health entrepreneurs. In 2063, I joined the African Union's Health Equity Commission. I entered policy-making spaces not as a tech expert, but as a servant leader. I remembered what Mr. Kobe mentioned to us in class, that leadership is about turning ideas into structure and taking actionable steps. And where best to do this than the policymakers themselves. Throughout the decades, I kept refining the weaknesses from my SWOT. I joined Toastmasters and learned to speak with confidence. I used time blocking and then time matrices for better time management. I reflected regularly. I self-assessed through the 4 laws of behavior change from the book Atomic Habits. And then I asked for feedback and continuously improved. I set timelines, reviewed progress, and shared updates from my mentor and accountability partner, Dennis Owusu, who never stopped guiding me. And even back then, I wrote a note to him, telling him that he should hold me accountable for everything I planned to be. In all things, I celebrated failure as a teacher and remained a student of life. As I have said, for my legacy, I believe I help people feel seen and heard in systems that often ignore them. For people in the undeserved community, the tailors, the hairdressers, I used AI not to replace doctors, but to extend care and to connect service providers to potential customers. I led not for applause, but to serve. I lived out my faith through impact, and I reminded young people that leadership can be both brilliant and quiet. And today, at 70, if you ask me what my legacy is, in short, I'd say I made people feel seen. Whether it was a shoemaker in Dansoman, a teenage girl in Keta, or a young founder trying to use AI for good, which I mentored. This 70-year-old version of me speaking to you now is still guided by the young woman who sat in that Ashesi classroom thinking deeply about how to serve well. And of course, I still keep in touch with my wonderful lecturer, Mr. Albert, and the FI, Maureen, till this day. So to the next generation, the leadership journey is not waiting to start. It has already begun. Stay grounded, stay reflective. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that the work you are doing now will ripple for decades to come.
Pickable. I just put the buggers in my chain. Pickable. 80 pointers like a Kobe Dane. Pickable. 762s, I make them plain. Pickable. I'm popping out your band, that's what my name. Pickable. I put 2 foreigns on a 4-5. Pickable. That's got you pepper if I'm doing pasta. Pickable. Why you acting tough on IG Live? Pickable. You know my loved ones with that. Let's get it. Pickable. Surprise, it's your boy Chuck E. Cheese. I FaceTime my eye, yeah, I'm up the street. It's AZZ, I put the boys to sleep. He on the ground, praise God, and stomping feet. Ladies, I want to make a move. I want to perform.